In the early 1700s, the waters of the eastern seaboard became the playground of a man who would go on to become the most feared pirate in history, Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard. Number 1. Blackbeard. With a wild mane of jet black hair and a thick, twisted beard that he often decorated with smoking fuses during battle, Blackbeard struck fear into the hearts of sailors long before they even caught sight of his ship on the horizon. Blackbeard started his career as a privateer during the War of the Spanish Succession, sailing under the British flag. But when peace arrived, the temptation of riches and fame was too strong to resist. He turned to piracy and quickly earned a reputation for his bold raids on merchant ships and his remarkable skill at securing the unwavering loyalty of his crew. His main ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, was a powerful 300-ton vessel armed with 40 cannons. It was like a floating fortress, capable of overpowering nearly any ship that dared to cross its path. Blackbeard seized it in 1717 and modified it to fit his needs, using it to blockade the bustling port of Charleston, South Carolina, in one of his most audacious and calculated moves. The Charleston blockade wasn't just an act of piracy, it was a show of dominance. Blackbeard's crew captured several ships and hostages, including prominent individuals, and demanded a chest full of medicine as ransom. His legend only grew as stories spread about his supposed supernatural invincibility, fueling both admiration and terror. But Blackbeard was not truly invincible. In November 1718, after months of evading the law, his luck finally ran out. Governor Alexander Spotswood of Virginia, determined to put an end to Blackbeard's reign of terror, dispatched 2 naval ships under the command of Lieutenant Robert Maynard. They tracked Blackbeard down near Ocracoke Island, North Carolina, where one of the most famous pirate battles in history unfolded. Even in death, Blackbeard's legend continued to grow. Stories of his hidden treasure, rumored to be buried somewhere along the Outer Banks, have captivated treasure hunters for centuries. To this day, nobody has uncovered it, fueling speculation and excitement about the untold riches that might still lie beneath the shifting sands. Number 2. Captain Kidd. Captain William Kidd's story is one filled with intrigue, adventure, and betrayal, forever shaping his legacy in maritime history. Born in Scotland around 1645, Kidd began his seafaring life as a privateer, a lawful pirate, sanctioned by the Crown, to raid enemy ships for profit. But over time, the line between privateer and pirate became dangerously blurred, ultimately sealing his fate as one of the most infamous figures to ever sail the high seas. By the late 1600s, he had settled in New York City, where he married into high society and attempted to embrace a quieter life on land. However, his newfound stability did not last long. Eager to prove himself, Kidd took command of the adventure galley, a well-armed vessel outfitted with 34 powerful cannons. Yet the voyage was far from easy. Disease struck his crew, supplies ran low, and after months without any major success, tensions among his men began to escalate. To maintain control and keep his crew loyal, Kidd made a pivotal decision. He turned to piracy, targeting ships he deemed to be fair game for plundering. The defining moment of Kidd's career came in 1698 when he captured the Quedagh Merchant, a large Armenian ship laden with valuable goods. This bold action, however, drew the ire of the East India Company, and Kidd was swiftly declared a pirate and an outlaw. His return voyage to the Americas was fraught with danger. Knowing that authorities were closing in, he buried treasure along the coasts of New York and Long Island, hoping it might serve as leverage later. For centuries, tales of Kidd's hidden fortune have fascinated treasure hunters, though little of his legendary hoard has ever been recovered. In a desperate bid to clear his name, Kidd sailed to Boston, seeking an audience with colonial leaders, but instead of a pardon, he was arrested and sent to England in chains, his reputation beyond saving. In 1701, after a highly publicized trial, he was found guilty of piracy and executed by hanging on the banks of the River Thames. Even now, whispers of Kidd's lost treasure persist in coastal towns, where maps, riddles, and rumors lure hopeful seekers into the depths of uncharted landscapes, still chasing what Kidd may have left behind. Number 3, Jean Lafitte. In the misty swamps and the bustling ports of Louisiana, a name rose to fame in the early 1800s, Jean Lafitte. Part pirate, part smuggler, and part hero, Lafitte led a life full of contradictions, making him one of the most puzzling and captivating figures in American history. Lafitte's origins are as shadowy as his legendary career. Some say he was born in France, while others claim he hailed from the French-speaking islands of the Caribbean. But by the early 1800s, Lafitte and his brother Pierre had already established a highly successful smuggling network in Barataria Bay, just south of New Orleans. The Lafitte brothers ran a tightly controlled operation, trading items such as coffee, spices, and other valuable goods. Jean, however, was not just a common criminal. He was a skilled diplomat and strategist. He developed connections with New Orleans high society, ensuring that his illicit activities could continue with minimal interference. Unlike many other pirates who prowled the open seas, Lafitte worked in the shadows, always blurring the line between outlaw and businessman. His well-hidden base in Barataria Bay was accessible only through the winding, treacherous waterways of Louisiana's vast bayous, making it an ideal stronghold. But Lafitte's most famous moment came during the War of 1812, when the British approached him with an enticing offer of gold in exchange for his support. Lafitte played for time. Instead of siding with them, he secretly warned the Americans, offering his men and supplies in return for an official pardon. Lafitte's men, known as the Baratarians, played a critical role in the Battle of New Orleans. His deep knowledge of the swamps and mastery of artillery helped secure an American victory against overwhelming odds. After the war, Lafitte was praised as a hero, but he had no interest in basking in fame. Though freed from all charges, he remained restless and soon returned to smuggling, this time establishing a new base on Galveston Island, Texas. He claimed the island as a new pirate haven, naming it Campeche, and ruled over it for several years. Even today, Jean Lafitte's name echoes throughout the Gulf Coast. Towns, parks, and countless stories bear his name, a testament to how deeply people remain fascinated by the mystery and adventure of his life. Number 4, Anne Bonny. In the early 18th century, tales of piracy often painted larger-than-life figures. Among them stood Anne Bonny, a fierce and fearless woman who defied expectations and carved her name into pirate legend. Born in Ireland around 1697, Anne moved to the American colonies with her father as a child, settling in the bustling port city of Charleston, South Carolina. It was there that her rebellious spirit took root. Her first act of defiance came when she married a minor sailor, James Bonny, against her father's wishes. But the marriage quickly failed, and Anne found herself drawn to the unruly world of Nassau, a pirate haven in the Bahamas. It was there that Anne's life changed forever when she met John Rackham, better known as Calico Jack. His charm and reputation pulled her in, and she soon became his most trusted companion. Anne and Calico Jack were inseparable, both on land and at sea. Defying gender norms, Anne disguised herself as a man aboard the ship, fighting alongside the crew with skill and determination. Her courage in battle earned her both admiration and fear. She was not a mere observer in the pirate world. Anne Bonny was a force to be reckoned with, known for her relentless spirit. They raided ships, dodged authorities, and lived a reckless life of adventure. But their fortune could not last forever, and their days of freedom were numbered. In October 1720, a pirate hunter ambushed their ship near Jamaica. With the crew unprepared, many were too drunk to fight back. Anne, however, refused to surrender without resistance. She fought fiercely, trying to hold off the attackers, but in the end, they were outnumbered and captured. Facing trial, Anne's fiery nature did not falter. When she saw Calico Jack before his execution, she scolded him, saying, "If you had fought like a man, you wouldn't be hanged like a dog." Her own life was spared when it was revealed she was pregnant. What happened to Anne Bonny after her trial remains one of history's great mysteries. Some believe she was quietly released, while others claim she escaped and continued her life in secrecy. Some say she returned to Charleston to live quietly. Others believe she vanished entirely, Her fate left to speculation while her legend endured. Whatever the truth, Anne Bonny's story remains a testament to freedom and defiance. Her name continues to inspire those who refuse to be bound by rules they never agreed to follow. Number 5, Edward Lowe. In the early 18th century, the Atlantic Ocean was a dangerous hunting ground for pirates, and among the most feared was Edward Lowe. His name became infamous, not just for his daring raids, but for the extreme cruelty that set him apart from his rivals. Born in London around 1690, Lowe grew up in hardship and quickly turned to crime. He began as a street thief, using trickery and violence to survive. These early experiences shaped the ruthless pirate he would later become, feared by sailors across the Atlantic. Lowe's life took a sharp turn when he left England and settled in Boston. There, he worked as a shiprigger, but the harsh conditions and low pay frustrated him. Dissatisfied with life on land, he seized an opportunity in 1722 by joining a mutiny. His first ship, the Rebecca, quickly became a feared sight along the New England coast. Lowe wasted no time attacking merchant ships, using his brutal reputation to instill terror. Unlike some pirates who bluffed their way to victory, Lowe was truly vicious. Tales of his cruelty spread fast. He was known for mercilessly punishing captives and taking gruesome revenge on those who resisted him. Even hardened sailors feared falling into his hands. Lowe's raids were not confined to New England. He expanded into the Caribbean, attacking ships loaded with gold, sugar, and other goods. No merchant vessel was safe from his unpredictable wrath, and stories of his brutality only fueled his legend. One of his most notorious acts occurred in 1723 near Cape Cod. After looting a merchant ship, he ordered it burned to the waterline, leaving nothing behind but charred remains. But his reign did not last. In 1724, after a failed raid, his own crew turned against him. Fed up with his brutality and reckless leadership, they abandoned him. Alone and without power, Lowe's fate became a mystery. Some claim he was captured and executed by the Portuguese, while others believe he managed to escape, vanishing into obscurity. No one knows for certain, but his name continues to haunt the annals of piracy. Edward Lowe remains one of the most feared figures of the golden age of piracy. His story serves as a chilling reminder of how cruelty and ambition can leave a lasting mark on history. Number 6, Stede Bonnet. Stede Bonnet was unlike any pirate of his time. Born in Barbados in 1688, Bonnet was a wealthy plantation owner, living a life of privilege and comfort, far from the dangers of the sea. Yet beneath this refined lifestyle, there was a yearning for adventure, and perhaps a desire to escape the rigid expectations placed upon him. In 1717, Bonnet made a decision that stunned those who knew him. He walked away from his privileged life, leaving behind his family, and used his own wealth to buy a ship, which he named Revenge. Unlike most pirates who seized their vessels by force, Bonnet's fortune allowed him to acquire his ship legally, earning him the unusual title of the Gentleman Pirate. Bonnet's entry into piracy was far from traditional. With no naval experience, he hired a crew and even paid them wages, an uncommon practice among pirates who typically shared only stolen plunder. But his lack of skill soon became apparent. His early raids along the American coast and in the Caribbean were clumsy, and more than once, he barely escaped capture. It wasn't long before Bonnet crossed paths with the infamous Blackbeard. Recognizing Bonnet's inexperience, Blackbeard took him under his command, using the naive nobleman for his own benefit. Together they raided merchant ships along the Atlantic, striking fear into those who dared to sail in their waters. However, their alliance was never an equal one. Blackbeard saw Bonnet as a liability rather than a trusted partner, and their partnership ended abruptly. Without warning, Blackbeard stranded Bonnet and his men on an island, taking revenge for himself and leaving Bonnet humiliated and abandoned. Bonnet eventually escaped and against all odds returned to piracy. Determined to prove himself, he adopted the alias Captain Thomas and resumed raiding merchant vessels near the Carolinas. But despite his efforts, his reputation never fully recovered. His luck finally ran out in 1718. After accepting a royal pardon, he briefly attempted to retire from piracy, but temptation proved too strong, and he returned to his old ways. That decision led to his downfall. The governor of South Carolina, Robert Johnson, sent pirate hunter Colonel William Rhett to track him down. On November 10th, 1718, Bonnet was captured and later hanged in Charleston, bringing his short yet fascinating piracy career to an end. Though Revenge was lost to history, the legend of Stede Bonnet, the nobleman who abandoned his fortune for a life of crime, continues to intrigue those who hear his tale. Number 7. Charles Vane. In the lawless years of the early 18th century, the Atlantic Ocean was dominated by pirates who ruled the seas through both fear and cunning. Among them was Charles Vane, a man whose defiant nature, relentless spirit, and ruthless methods made him one of the most infamous figures of the golden age of piracy. Charles Vane first gained recognition during the War of the Spanish Succession, working as a privateer, a state-sanctioned pirate given permission to attack enemy ships. But when the war ended and legal opportunities disappeared, Vane refused to give up life at sea. Instead, he turned fully to piracy, preying on ships along the eastern seaboard and throughout the Caribbean. Vane's reputation grew when he joined forces with Henry Jennings, a seasoned pirate who raided Spanish salvage ships off the Florida coast. These ships carried riches recovered from sunken galleons, and Vane quickly became known for his bold raids, showing no hesitation in seizing his share of the treasure. Unlike many pirates who relied on intimidation to seize ships without bloodshed, Vane was known for his willingness to engage in brutal combat. His vessel, Ranger, became infamous for its quick and devastating attacks, manned by a crew loyal to their daring and unpredictable captain. One of Vane's defining traits was his absolute refusal to submit. In 1718, when King George I offered a pardon to pirates who surrendered, Vane refused to accept it. While many of his fellow outlaws sought safety, Vane saw the pardon as an insult to his freedom and continued raiding ships. However, his reputation suffered in November 1718 when he encountered a powerful French warship. Rather than engage in battle, he ordered a retreat, an act his crew viewed as cowardice. Among pirates, bravery was everything, and Vane's decision to flee led to his downfall. His men mutinied, removing him as captain and replacing him with his first mate, Calico Jack Rackham. Cast adrift in a small sloop, Vane refused to surrender his way of life. He gathered a new crew and resumed raiding ships along the American coast, unwilling to abandon the pirate's path. His resilience and determination made him one of the most feared and stubborn captains of his era. Charles Vane's legacy is one of defiance. While many pirates sought wealth or amnesty, Vane embodied the untamed spirit of piracy, choosing freedom over safety, even at the cost of his own life. Even in death, his name remains a symbol of rebellion, forever tied to the wild and unforgiving world of the high seas. Number 8. Gasparilla. In the warm, shimmering waters of the Gulf of Mexico, a pirate's name continues to echo through the centuries: Gasparilla. Known as the last of the buccaneers, his legend is filled with daring adventures, hidden treasures, and the fierce loyalty of his pirate crew. According to legend, Gasparilla ruled the waters off Florida's west coast for nearly 40 years, striking fear into merchants and sailors alike. From his hidden base on Gasparilla Island, he and his crew launched countless raids, plundering merchant ships and seizing vast treasures of gold, silver, and sparkling jewels. His fleet was said to operate under a strict pirate code, ensuring discipline, loyalty, and order among his men. Gasparilla's ships were feared throughout the Gulf of Mexico. His flagship, Floridablanca, was not only well-armed, but also incredibly swift, allowing him to outmaneuver naval vessels that attempted to hunt him down. Despite his fearsome reputation, stories suggest that Gasparilla had a softer side. Legend claims he had a deep appreciation for art, music, and poetry, and that he occasionally spared the lives of prisoners who managed to impress him with their wit or bravery. But like most pirate tales, Gasparilla's story ends in tragedy. By 1821, he had grown tired of the pirate's life and decided to retire. The Spanish Empire had collapsed, and Florida had come under the control of the United States. Hoping for one last grand prize before disappearing into obscurity, he targeted what he believed to be a wealthy merchant ship. However, the ship was not what it seemed. In reality, it was a heavily armed U.S. Navy warship, disguised to lure pirates into a trap. A fierce battle erupted, with cannon fire and musket shots echoing across the water. Gasparilla and his men fought bravely, but they were hopelessly outmatched. Rather than face the humiliation of capture, Gasparilla made a final, defiant choice. Wrapping himself in the anchor chain of his beloved ship, he is said to have leapt into the sea, shouting, "Gasparilla dies by his own hand, not the enemy's." His legend was sealed with that final act of defiance. Today, the legend of Gasparilla lives on in Florida. Every year, Tampa hosts the Gasparilla Pirate Festival, a grand celebration where thousands gather to watch a full-scale pirate invasion. A replica pirate ship sails into the city, and costume revelers take to the streets, keeping the swashbuckling spirit of Gasparilla alive for new generations. Number 9. Rachel Wall. Rachel Wall's story often begins on a stormy New England coastline, where whispers say she first dreamed of a life at sea. Born around 1760, she grew up near the bustling port towns of the American colonies, watching ships sail in and out of the harbor. From a young age, the ocean called to her, offering a sense of freedom and adventure beyond the ordinary world. Legend tells that Rachel and her husband, George Wall, carried out schemes along the waters near Boston. They would pretend to be stranded, their small vessel appearing battered and helpless. Passing ships, believing they had found sailors in distress, would come to help, only to be ambushed. Rachel and her crew would then seize the ship's cargo before disappearing into the misty waters, leaving behind only rumors of their deception. But the sea could not keep Rachel safe forever. She was eventually captured and brought before a Boston court, accused of robbery on the high seas. Historical records suggest she admitted to theft but denied the charge of piracy, adding an air of mystery to her fate. Some believe she fought to defend herself, while others say her fate was sealed the moment she was caught. Despite any hope for mercy, Rachel's sentence was severe. She is believed to have been one of the last women in Massachusetts to face the ultimate punishment, her name forever linked to that grim distinction. Even in her final moments, the truth of her story remained clouded by legend, half-truths, and speculation. For generations, people have debated whether Rachel was a true pirate or simply a desperate thief. Yet, like the waves that continue to crash along the New England shores, her legend has never faded, living on in whispers and folklore. Number 10, Samuel Bellamy. Samuel Bellamy, better known as Black Sam, was a pirate, unlike any other. Born in Devon, England, in 1689, he grew up with dreams of the sea, drawn to the idea of adventure and fortune. He never imagined his daring exploits would make him one of the most legendary pirates to ever sail near the American coast, his name forever tied to one of history's greatest lost treasures. Bellamy's path to piracy was driven by love and ambition. As a young sailor, he arrived in Cape Cod and met Maria Hallett, a woman he adored. However, Bellamy was poor, and Maria's family disapproved, believing he lacked the means to support her. Determined to prove himself worthy, he set sail in search of wealth, leaving Maria behind with promises of returning as a man of fortune. At first, Bellamy joined an expedition to recover a sunken Spanish treasure ship off the coast of Florida. When that mission failed, he turned to piracy alongside his friend Palsgrave Williams, seeing piracy as a quicker and more certain way to riches. Unlike many ruthless pirates, Bellamy treated his crew with fairness and generosity, earning him their deep loyalty. He called himself the Robin Hood of the sea, preferring to target wealthy traders and distributing the spoils among his men. His charm, boldness, and strong sense of justice made him a popular and respected leader among the pirate ranks. Bellamy's greatest prize was the Whydah Galley, a massive slave ship he captured in 1717. He armed it with over 50 cannons, transforming it into a powerful and nearly unstoppable pirate vessel. With the Whydah under his command, he ruled the waters, striking fear into merchants along the eastern seaboard and leaving his mark on history. His success was swift and overwhelming. In under a year, Bellamy seized more than 50 ships, amassing a fortune that rivaled even the richest pirates of his era. But as with many who lived by the sea, his reign was always at the mercy of nature's unpredictable fury. Tragedy struck in April 1717 when the Whydah Galley, weighed down with treasure, was caught in a violent storm off the coast of Cape Cod. The raging waves tore the ship apart, dragging Bellamy and nearly all of his men to the depths. Only 2 crew members survived to tell the tale of his final voyage, ensuring that his name would not be forgotten. Centuries later, in 1984, marine explorer Barry Clifford discovered the wreck of the Whydah Galley, the first authenticated pirate shipwreck ever found. Today, artifacts from the ship are displayed in museums, preserving Bellamy's story and allowing future generations to marvel at his legendary exploits. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.